Welcome to Westminster College and America's National Churchill Museum. My name is Tim Riley. I'm the Chief Curator and Director here at America's National Churchill Museum, where the museum on this day, November 9th, 2020, remains closed. We are closed initially due to the pandemic that is ravishing the world right now, but also continued to close to do some improvements and constructions on the museum. So we're finding a new way of conducting business by joining all of you virtually here via this format and bringing the world together to talk a little bit about Winston Churchill. This is a new webcast series that we're entitling Cocktails with a Curator, and we're going to have a chance to toast a little bit later on today. So I invite you all to settle back and find your own beverage and be prepared for that toast. But before we begin, before I introduce our guest today, I'd like to invite each of you to become a member of America's National Churchill Museum and support the cause. Because we remain closed, we still rely on your support. So many of you have been helpful during our closure, have given so generously with your pocketbooks to keep the coffers full. And we'd like you to join us with our Beacon of Resilience campaign and make a donation today by looking at the link down below in the chat of this web stream or on our website, nationalchurchillmuseum.org. So once again, thank you for considering your support. And for those of you who do continue to support us, thank you very, very much. We are joined today, and I'm very happy to welcome from her studio in New York, a Churchill Fellow, artist, author, and a very dear, dear, dear friend of America's National Churchill Museum, Edwina Sandys. Edwina, we're so glad that you're with us today, this very special day, November 9th, which is the 31st anniversary of the fall of the Berlin Wall, and the 30th anniversary of when you were here with us at Westminster College in Fulton to dedicate your remarkable sculpture, Breakthrough, comprised of 8 sections of the Berlin Wall. Edwina, thank you for taking time out of your day to join us virtually here and be back with us.
Hello, everybody. I'm very pleased that you're at least orally here, if that's the word, but I would prefer to be with you in person. We've had so many wonderful occasions here at the Winston Churchill Memorial and Library, and I've been coming here, I think, for 30 years at least, and it's almost second home for me. So it's lovely to hear. I'll be hearing from you, even if I'm not seeing you.
Right.
So,
and to that point, Edwina, I'd like to invite all of our viewers who are watching us on social media to submit the questions in the chat, either on YouTube or Facebook. We will be taking your questions later on in this webcast. And once again, don't be afraid to have your cocktail ready for the special toast at the end. Edwina, what I thought we'd do today is show a few slides, a few images of your spectacular work, Breakthrough, and talk a little bit about not only its origins, but the speech that your grandfather gave here 75 years ago that inspired it. So to kick things off, I'd like to show a photograph that was taken of you 30 years ago this day when you made this remarkable sculpture. This is Breakthrough, and here you are breaking through your tremendous sculpture comprised of 8 sections of the Berlin Wall. The next slide, of course, is the reason we're all here, and this is the slide of your grandfather speaking in the historic gymnasium here at Westminster College with President Harry Truman seated behind him when he gave the seminal speech he called the Sinews of Peace, now today known as the Iron Curtain speech, where Winston Churchill warned that an Iron Curtain was descending across the continent. This speech, this warning of the forthcoming Soviet threat was the speech that was heard throughout the world and in many ways signaled the beginning of the Cold War. And this is really the reason, again, we're here at America's National Churchill Museum, the reason the museum was founded, and ultimately the reason your sculpture was made, wasn't it, Edwina?
Yes, but let's hear the speech.
We don't have the audio of the speech, but this text said
Oh,
from
we don't.
in the Baltic to Trieste in the Adriatic, an iron curtain has descended across the continent. Those were the words, and those are the words which still ring true today in many respects.
Okay, well, it was a very exciting time 30 years ago or 31 years ago when I was in New York and with my husband, Richard Kaplan, and we heard that the Berlin Wall had fallen and that people were crowding through from East Berlin to West Berlin. And there was joy abounded. It was a glorious sight. Everybody saw it on television just at the moment it happened. There was such joy, and people were mingling from both sides of the wall, and it was really a wonderful thing. And I thought it would be great if I could get a piece of the Berlin Wall and make a sculpture out of it. We had heard that this was a few days after the actual fall, people were coming back with little tiny pieces of the Berlin Wall, like going on the beach to pick up seashells. But I thought maybe I could get a piece a little bit larger than that. And so we'd heard that in Berlin, they were selling pieces of the wall, the full-size pieces, which are 12 foot high. They were selling them for, I don't know, from $60 to $200, depending on what they looked like. But well, we put that aside in our minds, and we said, well, we'll go to Berlin. So we didn't know how to do that because everybody was still in East Berlin, and we didn't know how to get involved with it because all our friends knew everybody from West Berlin. But anyway, we had a friend who knew the mayor of East Berlin, and he made everything possible. So we arrived in Berlin, and we went to the wall, and there it was on one side, all beautifully colored with graffiti, but rather in the artist part of Berlin. It was actually quite lovely. And then we didn't know how to get a piece of it. But we were introduced to some of the East German, like cabinet members, government people. They were still running the place. Just because the wall came down, the organization of the city was still in two parts. Anyway, we met the mayor, or some of the top people, and then I said, well, could we have some pieces of the wall? And he said, well, you'll have to go and speak to the Minister of Culture and explain to him why we should give you the wall. So I said, well, my grandfather, Winston Churchill, made this special speech in Fulton, Missouri, and just when it was to announce to the world, who didn't completely understand that at the time, that there was a great division after the war, and that people were going to be, the world was going to be in two parts. Anyway, we went to meet all these people, and I had thought we would ask for two pieces, big pieces. But then when we got to the yard where all the pieces were displayed, we said maybe 4 or 6 pieces. And then Richard, my husband, said, let's ask for 8. They can always knock it down a bit. So we asked for 8 pieces. And the Minister of Culture said, well, why do you think, you have to write me a letter saying why you think we should give this to you. So he said, go in to my office with my secretary. She speaks English, and she will translate for you whatever you want to say. So I thought it was very funny and strange to be sitting down working shoulder to shoulder with somebody that had used to be seen as our enemy. Anyway, that was all that. And we came home we picked out the ones we wanted. This is Richard in front of one of the pieces of the Berlin Wall. We picked out 8 pieces. We were very happy with them. Then they were then had to be transported to first to New York, Now, I'd just like to say you were looking at that piece, one of the pieces we chose. All the pieces kept having this name, this word, unwahr, which I didn't know what it meant at the time, but it means lies or untruth. Anyway, it was a rather striking, all that in red on the colored wall. And so we got it to New York, and that's it coming to New York. We got it to New York in these huge slabs where we found out how to cut it. And so the people in this concrete place wanted to have us to use a water jet cutter, which I had never known about before. And I thought I would have lots and lots of little souvenirs for everybody after it had been cut, because the cutting, I wanted to, oh yes, of course. What was the sculpture to be about? I thought I had to represent freedom, but in order to represent freedom, I had to represent unfreedom. And so I wanted to have the wall, the full stretch of the wall with two spaces cut out, one like a man, one like a woman. And then people could walk through it. Yes, we had dinner one evening with some people from East Berlin, and we were talking about it, and I was explaining to them that actually the sculpture was meant to represent people breakthrough. And this man, he was German, he said, "Oh, Durchbruch," which is what that's the translation for breakthrough. Now, at the place where we were cutting the things, I made templates, the shape of the man and the woman, so that they could be cut out of the full stretch of the wall. And it was rather, I thought we would get an awful lot of souvenirs, but when they cut it out, it turned out that this magical water jet cutter did it perfectly, and there was not a single little bit that broke off. So we got two perfect spaces of the man and the woman, and we got two perfect positive pieces.
And before it was exhibited here, its permanent home, you had it in New York for a short time, didn't you?
Yes, we had it at the IBM Gallery, which was a fantastic place. However, we got it there. And so lots of friends and people and a lot of New Yorkers went to it. Everybody wanted to stand in the spaces and show off standing in the spaces, the man or the woman. You see here, there's one at the top. I'm there in the pink dress with the Dean of St. John the Divine, and Richard is on my right. And some of friends really looking like model girls, and my sister-in-law down in green, Joan Davidson. And it was really fun.
Well, and you'll be happy to know this is a common pose today. The museum is one of the top tourist destinations in the Midwest, certainly in Missouri, and people are still taking photographs like this to the present day. So it continues even now.
Yes. Well, when we look at the full piece, I'll tell you something. This is just when they're trying to set it up.
Christopher Wren Church of St. Mary the Virgin Aldermanbury, which was also relocated from Europe, from central London to the Westminster College campus in mid-Missouri. So we seem to have a habit of transplanting these wonderful monuments in honor of the Iron Curtain speech. And I think juxtaposed together, the Wren Church from London that was damaged and bombed in the Blitz and rebuilt by the Americans at Westminster College, together with this ultimate symbol of freedom, the Berlin Wall.
And I want to jump in here and say that, please look at the whole picture, because there's the Berlin Wall and then there's the church. And on the right, you can see in the distance a bronze sculpture of my grandfather, Winston Churchill.
Now,
I would like to say, if I'm not talking too much, I would like to say that what I think about the sculpture breakthrough is, I like people to feel that they can walk through from the other side, which is blank, is left blank without any pictures on it, people can walk through either the man shape or the woman shape. And it's a bit like they can make their own wish, like a wish or decision. Sometimes I walk through, when I'm going to walk through, I think, well, what shall I wish for or decide to do? Or so it's a little bit of a nice thing beyond, and it's really, it's quite, it's not just you looking at a sculpture, you're meant to be involved with it.
Well, it's remarkable to me, Edwina, that as we were all watching our television sets on November 9th, 1989, when the wall was coming down, to 1 year later, to the day, you had made it happen. The wall had come down and had gone back up with your cutouts and breakthrough here in Fulton. And it was dedicated by the President of the United States, the former President, Ronald Reagan, who was here for the occasion, wasn't he?
Yes, it was wonderful. He was so charming and delightful, and it was a lovely day, a very sunny day, and it was a joyful day.
I think it was a windy day, was it not?
Yes, it was, but that's all right.
There's a great story that I've heard that at one point, one of the flags, you can see them blowing in the winds, the British flag there toppled down. And I understand that you would have none of that. And didn't you pick it up and put it back in its place?
I did. I think some people were a bit nervous that I would leave the podium and do that, but I thought I would take advantage of the moment. So I went and grabbed the Union Jack and I held it up and I said, there'll be no flag burning here today. That was going on at the time, a bit of that.
Well,
anyway, it was a lovely moment, and the wonderful crowds and the students and faculty and everybody.
Well, this is one of my favorites.
President Sandys of Westminster College, he was there and he was part of the whole thing, obviously.
It's one of my favorite photos because it has you and in profile here with your grandfather, the great statue by Frontabelski, looking on in the background. This is one of my favorite images.
Mm.
It really is.
Well, it was a glorious day in every way.
The next slide we have here shows the next distinguished visitor, because less than 2 years on, we had Mikhail Gorbachev visit.
That was so exciting, so thrilling when we heard he would come. It was absolutely brilliant. I mean, people were thrilled.
And he's shown here speaking in front of the wall, but behind the same lectern that your grandfather used when he made the Iron Curtain speech.
Yes.
And it's just a remarkable thought to think back to nearly 75 years ago when your grandfather warned of an Iron Curtain, to 1961, the wall goes up, to 1989, it comes down. And then finally, here in 1992, Mikhail Gorbachev arrives at the Westminster College campus and essentially declares the end of the Cold War.
That was a very hopeful time between our countries, between Russia and America and the Western world. It was a very hopeful and wonderful time.
Well, it was very hopeful for those who are here in Fulton who remember the day. There were students and alumni. There were 20,000 people who came to hear that speech and to see.
Oh, I think it must have been much more, you know. It was quite a big audience.
It was, in this picture here shows that the tremendous interest in this. You know, history is not only celebrated at the museum, but it's where history happens.
Yes.
Point very much here. I love the next image here of you and Mikhail Gorbachev in front of the wall on the cutout. This is another one of my favorites.
He was a lovely man. Well, he still is, apparently. I haven't seen him lately, but it was a wonderful thing to meet him. And although I don't speak Russian and his English was marginal, we communicated through his goodwill and my joy at meeting him.
I'm certain. Now, the cutouts as you say, came out in one piece. You thought they might be in small bits.
Oh, yes.
It
So
came
when
out-
we got these, the pieces came out perfectly. And I decided to find a very good place for them. And I asked the director of Hyde Park, the where sorry.
Oh, the Franklin Roosevelt.
Sorry, yes.
Right.
Yes, I was getting too enthralled by looking at the statues. Yes, the wonderful library at Hyde Park, the Roosevelt Library. They already had a bust of Roosevelt, which is on the left, and on the right, I said they must have a Churchill. So we got a Churchill bust for that, and I thought that would be the ideal place for the extra pieces, which came out of the wall, and I called that break free, and I set them up with on a pedestal which has Roosevelt's four wonderful words: freedom from fear, and all that. And then we put barbed wire around it to show that they were breaking through from something, break free. And we called it it's a lovely little courtyard they made. We called it the Freedom Court. And you can all go and see that there, or you can go to see the other one in Fulton.
Well, I think you should do both.
Yes.
And you, as you mentioned, Edwina, you are a frequent visitor here to the museum and to Westminster College. You were here with us in May of last year, 2019, when we celebrated our 50th anniversary of the museum. And you brought with you some of your feathered friends, didn't you?
Yes, we had 20. I asked if we could have, I thought it'd be lovely to have some white doves for freedom flying through the spaces in the wall. And I said, could we get some doves? And I didn't really expect they'd say yes, but they said, well, yes, we could. I said, well, how about 30 doves? They said, oh, I think we could get 3 or 4. I said, oh dear. I think they thought I was about to cry. So they said, well, maybe a few more. So they said, we'll get you 20. I thought that was pretty good. And so they all flew through, they were loosed out, and then they flew through the spaces. And you can see one on the top of the wall. He was a bit reluctant to go.
And I don't want to get involved in the issue of counts and recounts and so forth, but I can tell you there were 30. We did have 30 doves. And I'm told by the keeper of the doves, they all made it home. So they released from Fulton and they flew back and they were all accounted for. So in the end, we did have 30 doves.
That was a wonderful thing, and it was a beautiful day. We're quite lucky with the weather.
Yes, yes. Well, these images, I think, bear witness to the fact that the sculpture continues to be relevant in many respects in these momentous occasions with President Reagan, Mikhail Gorbachev, and virtually anyone who has come to the college to speak breaks through and visits your sculpture. But my question for you, Edwina, in your view, 30 years later, is the sculpture, is breakthrough still relevant today?
Yes, I believe it is. I'm always happy when I find that it's still valid. And I think today it is relevant. And we can use this anniversary as an example of how divided countries, Germany was divided into East and West, how divided countries can break through and work together, learn to live with each other. So I think around the world, this is a good example, and we should all try to do that more.
It's always dangerous, but people ask us here, why aren't there more Winston Churchills today? Leadership is something that we're all yearning for, and looking to your grandfather. Think about how many times he's quoted by leaders throughout the world, or sometimes misquoted. Do you have any sense, Edwina, that your grandfather would have conceived that 75 years later, the Iron Curtain that he warned about has come, has gone, and that we'd still be talking about some of these issues today. I know it's hard to put words in his mouth, but what would you knew him?
Well, I think that the one thing is that he knew history. He knew history was long and far back, but it would go far forward. So I think he wouldn't be so surprised, although I'm sure he wouldn't be too surprised that what went before can sometimes affect the future.
Well, thank you again for those words. And what about Germany today? We've got leaders in Germany, Angela Merkel, for instance, and leaders in Europe and leaders in this country who are dealing with a worldwide pandemic, looking to, like your grandfather was the great leader in adversity. I mean, he is the exemplar for what to do when things get bad. You look to Churchill. Many of these leaders are doing that today, aren't they?
Well, I do think Angela Merkel is a wonderful example. She's strong and brilliant, and she's been there a long time. And I think she has pulled Europe together. She's really the leader there. And we in England are leaving Europe. And I think we in America have also not left some of the most important groupings and alliances. So who knows what's going to happen now? But I think it was a very glorious day on Saturday, and I hope that things will stay sunny and get more happy, and we can all be more friends with each other. Thank you very much. But now I'm getting thirsty. My grandfather's favorite, well, he had many favorite drinks. Some of them you can see in this picture behind me. But one special thing that he liked when he could celebrate something, he did like champagne, and he especially liked Paul Roger champagne.
Yes, he did.
Madame Paul Roger always sent him champagne. I don't think he ever needed to get any other type. So he was very happy with that. And to this day, the Paul Roger family still send our family, the Churchill family, champagne. And this is one of the bottles that the Paul Rogers have sent me. And I'm glad I have a good occasion. I'm sorry you're not all here to have a drop with me, but I'm going to have a sip.
Well, please do. And I invite all of our viewers.
Show you. Yes. I'm going to make a toast. Am I? Yes.
The curator, and I think we ought to have a toast. You've got champagne. I've got some ginger tea here, but we can toast together.
Okay. Shall I make a toast now?
We would be honored if you would lead us in a toast.
Thank you. Well, I'd like to make a toast first to Her Majesty the Queen.
Hear, hear.
And secondly, to the President of the United States. And thirdly, if I may say so, more important, I couldn't say that, no, but Winston Churchill.
Well, hear, hear. To Winston Churchill.
Here's to that. The Queen, the President, and Winston Churchill.
Right.
Hey, no.
And if I may return the toast, Edwina, and on behalf of everyone here at America's National Churchill Museum, at Westminster College, and your many friends throughout the world who are tuning in, I would like to have a toast to you.
To all of you who we cannot see, but we think about.
Well, and to you too. Hear, hear. Thank you.
Okay. Good night.
Well,
good night and happy days.
And from Westminster College here at America's National Churchill Museum, again, thank you so much, Edwina Sandys, for joining us on this special day to commemorate and celebrate the cause of freedom, which is embodied so boldly in your great sculpture. Here's to seeing you again, hopefully in person very soon.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Goodbye, everybody.
Bye-bye.